inevitable.
And I just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hello there, fellow geeks and nerds. It is I, Daniel, but you may call me the Pop Culture Dude. So, for all of you webheads out there who are catching up with more Spider-Man news, and now I'm just your average YouTuber that basically is going to post another video about Spider-Man for the third flipping time, we're going to have a lot of news to cover up today. So, we already know that some people are speculating rumors that they thought like Disney and Sony are of course going to renegotiate with the new Spider-Man deal, and guess what? Most of the majority of the MCU fans, yeah, there I say, are making theories about like, oh, let's just make a way how we can make Spider-Man exit without the MCU so they can finally acknowledge it. Like literally, from this article, according to the Radiator, from what I'm reading from this, these are like a couple of fan ideas, like what would they expect if they want to have a Spider-Man fan exit. Like they already have theories about how would they fix that cliffhanger of Far From Home in the MCU. So this is what some fan says. It says, according to Radiator, Marvel has two options. The drastic choice will eliminate Spider-Man from the MCU completely. In post-credits, see a Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Peter approaches Strange for help, affirms that he's been framed and exposed. Strange offers him a portal to an alternate universe, which he is determined, which is very much like this one, except you and your aunt don't exist there. Makes sense because of the portals. But so you should be able to be fit, and none of the Avengers exist there, but there's also no cosmic, otherwise Avengers level threat, so it's relatively safe. Left with no choice, Peter takes one last longing look at the world as he's leaving, and then he and May disappear to the portal. To me that's a good way just to think about it, but to me that's what they should have done back then if Kevin Fiege and of course the rest of the team says that it was good that they have an opportunity to let Spider-Man be with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they know for sure that it wasn't meant to last forever, like only last for 3 years. 2016, hey everyone. 2019, goodbye everyone. And yeah, that's the sad part. And that's what these fans like want to theorize. And I like this fan's idea because if that was the case, then Peter's identity will be like kept secret to a different dimension. And obviously the multiverse and the collider of Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. But there's another fan idea that says, continue when Sony Spider-Man 3 have a ride in the Venomverse. That's what they're calling Sony's universe of Marvel characters, the Venomverse, since technically Venom started it as a whole. Peter may try to settle and start a new life, but Peter seems to realize that Doctor Strange was wrong. There's another version of him in the universe. He goes by a different name, Ben Reilly. He's got spider powers too. Okay, I like what the fans are thinking of so lately that they're bringing up, especially by using the idea of Ben Reilly. If you don't know who Ben Reilly is, he is the clone of Peter Parker of the iconic Clone Saga, where we have the Jackal revive Gwen Stacy since she died in the Night of the Gwen Stacy died from that iconic comic book about her death. But it's a good thing they're acknowledging that. But speaking of that, there's this another fan idea where he decided to pitch his idea for a third Spider-Man movie, and it's almost at least accurate for what I've expected. Like, literally, I just go out of nowhere. Of course, I'm catching all the updates of all the third Spider-Man movies, and like I said before, it's going to be produced by Sony. Just for a recap, like, Marvel and Sony are no longer producing any more Spider-Man movies together after Far From Home, and Sony had all proves that they could be successful without the MCU, like Venom and Into the Spider-Verse, and now they're separating their own ways. Tom Holland's still going to continue as Spider-Man. The writers from Homecoming, Far From Home are coming back, and they're not sure if John Watts is returning, but they are in talks that he either works for like the next two Spider-Man movies that Sony negotiated with Tom Holland, or Marvel gets to keep John Watts with other productions. And I already told you who should be the producers: Phil Lord and Chris Miller for the Spider-Verse, because like I said, I told you about Avi Arad and Matt Tomek, and from the last Spider-Man video, I tell you why I don't want them to produce the film. But anyway, this fan's idea, and that's one of the things, like, sure, Sony can do their own thing, but I think the fans have, like, brilliant ideas. Like, this is from a Reddit from this Spider-Man 3 fan pitch might be the only way, like, to continue the story without an MCU involvement. And then those are, like, the only other ways that these other fans are kind of, like, think up and process in their minds, like, how would the story go without the MCU. And sure, it's not going to be easy by acknowledging it, as I said before from the last two Spider-Man videos, but I think this is like the only way just to like think of how you could continue the story without the MCU's involvement. And this is what this fan says, and he just really thought about it in his mind. And we're going to get to the Ben Reilly idea, and why do I think it's a really interesting idea that the fans are thinking about this idea. So, it starts off with, of course, this user named Iker. He used the plot smartly, used that as catalyst for a third movie. He suggests that Happy Hogan and Aunt May and Peter goes to hiding other fake identities, fitting to the ability of Peter, aka the Scarlet Spider, and obviously the name Ben. And you know what reminds me of? Uncle Ben. Obviously, the thing of the criticism with Tom Holland Spider-Man is the lack of Uncle Ben, and of course more relying on Tony Stark. And look, I don't have a problem with Iron Man being his mentor, but I hate the fact that Peter is relying too much on Iron Man. Like, oh, Mr. Stark, please help me. I don't feel so good. I'm gonna use my Mr. Stark's glasses. Mr. Stark, we want Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. You get the point. Like, he's definitely, like, not as independent as, you know, as Tobey's Spider-Man, where, of course, he feels actually more like a Spider-Man, and that's why I feel like, in my opinion, Tobey's, like, the most comic book accurate Spider-Man as from the pages. While Tom Holland Spider-Man, he has potential since he's now with Sony, and Sony can make a proper Spider-Man movie without the MCU. And from what this user said about Happy Hogan, he's an MCU character, so bad idea. So, by doing this, Iker's story manages to pull Peter's character away from the MCU. He can no longer consciously interact with Natural, but also to scale the story back to a neighborhood superhero, if only a couple of acts. And a slight alternate version of Kraven the Hunter. Okay, Kraven the Hunter is definitely one of my most requested Spider-Man villains ever since the third movie has officially been announced. Like, I think Kraven will be a perfect choice. Like, think about it. Peter Parker, his identities be revealed to the public, and what if someone needs to hire a hunter to hunt down the Spider-Man? And to me, I think Kraven will be a good choice. And to me, it will be interesting to have like a well-grounded hand-to-hand combat, of course, martial artist who has knows of experience with hunting animals. I think Kraven will be the good choice instead of just something that's like less tech-based. I mean, don't get me wrong. I requested Vulture in Homecoming, which eventually happened. And when they announced Far From Home, I want Mysterio to be the villain. And if they keep on this trend going of listening for what we requested, us as Spider-Man fans, I think they have the possibility to work on it. But other than that, to me, these fan ideas are amazing. And now, you're probably might thinking, is Disney and Sony going to make a renegotiation about bringing Spider-Man in the MCU, but at the exact same time being in Sony's movies? Guys, don't listen to these fake rumors. Like, they're just rumors. They're meant to be, of course, some theories, some speculations from people, but they're not officially, of course, confirmed by the studio. But now, from a day like this, we officially got our official news. And it's been spoke by Tom Holland, but also spoke by Sony's chairman. Of course, what's going to be left on the table? Like, is there a possible solution for, like, a renegotiation of Spider-Man coming back to the MCU and Sony just trying to find a way to collab out and find a fair deal where it's a win-win for both Disney and Sony, so it could be, like, a fair company for both the studios? Hate to, like, burst your bubble or try to keep your high hopes. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Probably for now, but either for now or forever. Like, that's the thing. Like, I know you're pretty much disappointed, but to me, honestly, I'm excited but also scared at the same time because Sony has officially addressed their big plans, what they're going to do with the franchise of Spider-Man, and it kind of reminds me that they've done something before. Like, pretty much the follow. This is from CEO Sony chairman Tony V. Query, whatever his last name is. He came out to declare publicly that Spider-Man was just fine without the MCU. Like, he just literally just says the door is closed in regards to Spider-Man ever joining to the MCU, which will come no surprise at all. But he goes into like any specific detail from what can he do to like what's in for the future of Spider-Man as a whole. Like, we don't know what's gonna expect for what's gonna happen next. And also, speaking of Tom Holland himself, and of course his negotiate Sony, he even have his own words to talk about how what Spider-Man's future will be like. I mean, he's still going to place the character, and he says, like, the franchise is going to be different as a whole. He did mention it's going to be bigger the better as before, as I mentioned from the last Spider-Man video, but here's what he has to say. He believes that the film franchise is in safe hands with Sony Pictures following the disagreement. Like, he just says, like, he frames, like, his next Spider-Man work in the next chapter in the last 5 years, and he just says, I'm not shy about expressing how incredible the last 5 years has been with Marvel, said Holland. I've been truly the time of my life in so many respects that they have my dreams come true as an actor. Sony has been really good to me, and the global success of Spider-Man Far From Home is a real testament to their support and skill commitment, and the legacy of the future of Spidey rests in Sony's safe hands. I'm really nothing but grateful I made friends for long that way. So it's a good thing that Tom Holland's like at least being honest, and even though most people are very mixed and of course very skeptical about this, but even though he's happy to be in the role once again, at least he's like highly optimistic. But guess what? He's not the only actor that is considered who plays a Spider-Man character from the MCU has responded about this. Jacob Belton, aka Ned Leeds, the guy in the chair, he actually has a respond about this. He heard about like, oh, it's a deal? It's not a big deal. Like, he doesn't seem like Spider-Man going back to Sony isn't a big problem, even though it's not confirmed that he will be featuring any of those films, but he doesn't seem like it's a major issue to some degree. And since Sony has the opportunity to use Spider-Man as characters, so that means he's going to be part of a bigger universe where Sony can allow to let Spider-Man do his crossovers. Like, recently Sony confirms that they are going to be he will be part of, quote-unquote, the Sony's universe of Marvel characters, or what you like to call the Venomverse, because basically Venom is basically like the start of a new cinematic universe, but with Spider-Man villains. And to me, that's one of the ways that they are going to contain the franchise. Like, basically, the CEO of Sony, Tony, just says, Tony, more like Sony Stark. Anyway, enough of the bad puns. But this is what he says. Bet that you have to copy and paste my last name. It's rather accidentally that he was explaining that the web slinger was doing without Avengers' help. And here's what he has to say. Spider-Man was fine before the events of the movies. You think Spider-Man was fine before he joined the MCU? You remember why The Amazing Spider-Man 2 failed and why fans are divided and why you guys decided to cancel everything about The Amazing Spider-Man franchise as a whole because fans did not like what's the direction going on until when the Sony hack happened. That's when you decided to join negotiations with Marvel. However, this is a very similar scenario. But let's get back. So, before the events films, it did better with the events films, and now that we have our own universe, he'll play with the other characters as well. I think we're pretty capable for what we have here. So, technically, they already have big plans of Spider-Man to cross over with characters like Venom or Morbius or any of the Spider-Man villains. And who knows, maybe some other Spider-Men, since, of course, they're part of a Spider-Verse. And fun fact, how do I know about this? Not just because of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because Sony is developing not just 5, but 6 live-action Spider-Man TV shows are being produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. When are these TV shows coming out? I don't know. Are they going to be in a platform streaming service like Netflix, or is it going to be on cable TV, or is it going to be like a TV special collaboration, or is Sony trying to make their own platform streaming service, kind of like what Disney is doing with Disney Plus? I don't know, but they have so many possibilities that they can do. Like, they could do, like, if they can make a 2099 Spider-Man TV series, live action or animated, that would look amazing if it's done really well. And there's, like, other street-level Spider-Man characters that can do, like, based on TV show. And who knows, maybe these TV shows could be, like, having continuity with the other movies that they have in development. And now most of you want to be thinking, like, why would you support this? Like, isn't it Sony's trying to, like, milk in the Spider-Man franchise so they can compete with Marvel again? Yes, because Sony really wants to do this ever since the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. Like, they originally tried to put their own Venom movie and the Sinister Six and their Amazing Spider-Man sequels, like a 3rd film and a 4th film. But after the drama that has, like, behind with the cast and behind with the studio and with the fans, they decided to cancel that. And now they're at the exact same place. Like, after when they done their sequel, and Far From Home was a much successful sequel than the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and now considered one of the good Spider-Man sequels to watch next to Spider-Man 2, but in not the case in like this Far From Home, since it already made like $1 billion from Sony, it definitely like has the chance to like Sony to bring it in. And since Venom was a financial success without Marvel's help and without Spider-Man as well, they decided to bring it back, even though Tom Holland did make a cameo of Venom, but Marvel's like, nah, cut that out because he was still remaining part of the MCU. But now that Spider-Man's now back with Sony, now they have the opportunity that he can cross over with multiple films. But the thing is, I'm not sure when will the next Spider-Man movie come out. I expect it to come out at least summer 2021, just because Homecoming and Far From Home came out in like 2017 of July, and Far From Home is like July 2019. So it's like 2 years apart. They haven't done this. This is like the third time they've done this. When Spider-Man 1 came out in 2002, Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004, The Amazing Spider-Man 2012, The Amazing Spider-Man 2014. It's basically like a strategy that Sony usually uses when it releases a Spider-Man film. They have to release that at least 2 or 3 years at the latest, because if they don't get to make at least another Spider-Man movie in 5 years, they have like the loss of the privilege as their film, because that's the reason why they don't want to let go of Spider-Man, because it's their only successful franchise that makes them like keeping that money going in, and that's why they want to like keep making more Spider-Man movies until they're all out, before they become like a lower budget platform PlayStation division. I mean, that's what most of you guys love from Sony, is their PlayStation consoles, and that's why they decided to buy Insomniac Games, just because they are the same developers that made the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 video game, and there's a potential sequel that's going to be in the works, so that's why Sony has like big plans with Spider-Man ever since the beginning. I mean, not gonna lie, I'm pretty much looking forward to these news, and of course, how much would their universe play off with the other characters that Peter Parker can interact with Marvel and Sony. And fun fact, speaking of characters, Tom Holland requested that he wants to like interact with Miles Morales, but fans also question is, does that mean they have to kill your character off just to introduce Miles Morales? And this is what Tom Holland says. He says, hopefully I don't get killed off, because I'll love to share a screen with Miles. I think he's pretty cool. I don't want to die because I love playing the character. That will be a bummer. Honestly, it would, because Tom Holland, he's like 23 years old, and he only plays the character 5 times, and if they immediately just kill him off like, oh, kill the kid, dead, it wouldn't be fair for him. And plus, Spider-Man is his favorite role, and it's his most iconic role, and that's why other studios like Pixar or Blue Sky are trying to make him in like feature other films, since Tom Holland is a household name thanks to being his role as Spider-Man. That's been like an important part of his life, but also in his career as well. So that's one of the reasons why that he still wants to play Peter Parker, even if they have to introduce Miles. I mean, the question is, are they going to do a live action Miles? I mean, it makes sense in Spider-Man Homecoming, where we have Miles' uncle, Aaron Davis, played by Donald Glover. He announces that he told Spidey, I have a nephew in the neighborhood, and it kind of confirms that Miles is this part of this Spidey cinematic shared universe, if you like to call it that. But the thing is, who's going to be live action Miles Morales? Are you going to bring back Shamik Moore, who is the voice of Miles? He was interested to play live action Miles, but if you're not going to get him, just hire my boy, Mr. Duck. He's the real Miles Morales. Shout out to him. But the point is, he wants to see so much potential that he can interact with most of the characters. And speaking of past Spider-Man projects, and I think Sony's trying to do their best just to like pay respects to the older fans, is the fact that some fans even question about Tom Holland, like how is his version of Spider-Man weaker, naive, and foolish than Tobey's? And of course, Tom just thinks like it makes him more interesting and more complex, which kind of like makes pissed off most of Tobey's fans. But he did say he loves Tobey's movies and of course his fans as well. The thing is, I don't think that was the best answer that he's been given to the fans. To me, the best answer is maybe because he's just young and he's not as inexperienced as Tobey is, since he's more of a mature Spider-Man, while Tom Holland's Peter Parker is still a teenager in his high school. I mean, literally, he hasn't graduated yet, and his identity's been revealed to the public, so it's the typical bad Parker look for him. But speaking of Tobey's Spider-Man, we already know that Sony are interested, and even Tom Holland and Sony producer Amy Pascal are interested to make a live-action Spider-Verse, possibly with Tom Holland and Andrew Tobey in the same movie. We will all go see. I mean, come on. If you are a fan of any of these Spider-Men, will you love to see in a movie together? I'll go pay my money to see it. But they have to make sure, like, how it works, like, as their own standalone Sony spin-offs, movies, and TV shows. Like, they have to, because right now Sony's Spider-Man related projects is Morbius, which is coming on July 10th, 2020, and Venom 2 is going to come out on October 2nd. They already got Andy Serkis, who's going to direct it. They got Woody Harrelson back and his 40-year-old Logan Paul look with the Ronald McDonald wig, playing Cleese Cassidy, aka Carnage, just to, like, you know, make Carnage like the official villain of Venom 2. And is Peter Parker going to appear? I don't know. It depends with Sony. But personally, if I want to see Peter Parker again by Tom Holland on the big screen, I'd rather wait till the third movie, because it wouldn't be fair if his identity's been left off as a cliffhanger from Spider-Man Far From Home, and then immediately he just been up to like the Venom sequel, where it's more than like Venom's perspective instead of Peter's perspective. So if I want to see like Peter interacting with other characters, I'd rather see a third movie first, and then I could see him like interact with Venom or any of the characters. Like, I want to see like at least another Venom interaction, at least during Venom 3 or Spider-Man 4, since, you know, Tom Holland signed up for at least 2 more Spider-Man films. I mean, the 4th film could be at least something big. Like, it could be like leading up to like a big conclusion to a story arc. They can either do the Sinister Six, Maximum Carnage symbiote storyline, or maybe a live-action multiverse storyline where they can have Miles, a live-action Spider-Gwen, 2099, or even Tobey and Andrew. There's so many possibilities that Sony's going to do, and that's why they have the plans. So the door has been officially closed from Sony themselves that they said Spider-Man is not welcome to come back with the MCU. Like, we know it's going to be limited, and that's the end of the journey, but like I said, I'm excited from what Sony's plans with Spider-Man, but at the exact same time, we should all be concerned, because what if these films bomb without Marvel's help? And of course, most people will be like, told you so, you should have just kept Spider-Man back to the MCU. But honestly, guys, did you expect Spider-Man to appear in any of the Marvel Phase 4 films? Do you expect him to be appearing in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or Thor Love and Thunder, or The Eternals, or Shang-Chi? The reason why they decided, like, not do that, because Kevin Fiege did not have plans to use Spider-Man in any of the Marvel movies, is because he basically buy the rights to 20th Century Fox, like X-Men and Fantastic Four. And since he already has, like, focusing for the future characters, he does have the time to focus on the Spider-Man rights, and that's why Sony is the one who's going to be responsible for that for now. So it's going to be like a really big new changes that's going to be coming to the franchise. But other than that, like I said, we'll have to see how it goes. Who knows? But hopefully Sony has the right creative control to make a proper Spider-Man storyline once again. Tom Holland is highly optimistic about it, and we'll have to see what's next for the rest of the future. But let's just appreciate from what Sony, at least they give positive feedback from their collaboration with Marvel. They said, we have a great fun with Foggy and Spider-Man's movies. We tried to see if there's ways to work out. The Marvel movie are terrific, and we have great respect for them. But on the other hand, we have some pretty terrific people on our own. The crew with Spider-Verse. Kevin didn't do all the work. Well, he was the executive producer of past Spider-Man movies, and he was involved with them, even though they weren't part of the MCU. But he was still like overboarding and trying to see what's going on in the production. So Kevin was involved in like most of the Spider-Man movies, including the spin-offs, but it's just uncredited just because he's mostly known as the boss of Marvel Studios. And even though Spider-Man is going to have like at least dangle in an unusual web, of course, that he's going to go through when it comes to this franchise, but we'll see. It has to go. Like, there's so many possibilities that they could do. Like, of course, let him interact with most of the characters. Especially the fact that they're going to make, like, more spin-offs. Like, they announced they're going to do, like, a Kraven the Hunter spin-off where they're going to do Kraven's Last Hunt, which is a dark and depressing storyline, but an iconic storyline of Kraven the Hunter. If they are going to use Kraven in the 3rd movie, it will make sense why they would do Kraven's Last Hunt and Kraven's standalone movie. And they did say they want to feature Spider-Man in it. They didn't say who specifically, but I bet it's Peter Parker since the beginning. And we're not sure how much Tom Holland's contract will be extended to, especially the fact that he has other movies to do by other productions besides Sony. But he's definitely, hopefully, he's opened up and very willing just to come back to do like most of the Spider-Man roles, since he wants to play Spider-Man until he can no longer walk on Earth. But that's all I have to say for now. And as a true Spider-Man fan, I'll keep you updates from all the Spider-Man news. So thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. And by the way, Sony, if you have the TV rights, please bring out Spectacular Spider-Man Season 3. If you don't, you get your rat and you fix this cat door.